We've lost most of our directors tonight.
The directors we've excused. Some of them, not all.
Some of them are just plain crazy. They're still here.
Well, I don't know if you remember a few years back, the council's like, look, if a director doesn't have something on the agenda, they don't need to be at the meeting. And the directors feel that when they're not at the meeting, they're kind of out of the loop. And quite honestly, open session or at the end of the meeting when we have reports, there's generally a question or two, and they want to be here to answer that. So it is the best way to stay in the loop with what's going on is being here. This is where the action happens. So, okay, welcome back. So just to recap where I was at, we're looking at developing 40 acres of land here, which we bought a few years back with storm drain bond. As I was saying, the property we're standing on now with this building and our fire department, and I'm not sure, I don't know if it's 2 acres or what it is, but not a whole lot of property. But to develop that was about $15 million with these 2 buildings. So when we start talking about developing 40 acres, now we're not putting a bunch of buildings on 40 acres, but there is going to be some expense that we're going to incur here that's a little bit different than what we've talked about in the past. So Marty, can you pull up your spreadsheet real quick? And Marty's, all of his free time that he has from all these other projects that he's in charge of.
I just threw this together this morning.
Yeah, he just cranked this out. Marty, Denise, and I, and Dion have met numerous times really trying to figure out what we're calling a way to skin the cat to get this project done. And so there's a bunch of numbers up here, and if you ever want to sit down and go over these number by number, just set an appointment with us, and we'll come and we'll go through all this with you. But what this is us setting up what fund is responsible for what part of payment for this property. So we have enterprise funds, we have general fund, and so we have uses that are compatible with the general fund, so parks and cemetery are a general fund expense. We have a building that's going to be used by our water department, sewer department, well, water and sewer are the same, pressure irrigation, storm drain, and streets. And so we're trying to take all of the uses of this property and figure out how much the enterprise funds need to pay for and how much the general fund needs to pay for. So Marty, if you can scroll to the right. What you see, all you saw on the left was really the breakdown of Marty figuring all that out. So what you're looking at now, where it says debt service, Marty, where we have debt service payment, $25 million, well, we anticipate the full cost of doing this is $35 million. So this, will you go back to your map now? Sorry, I'm going to have you jumping back and forth here, Marty. $35 million is the full development. So we have, this is cemetery, this portion here. This is the recreation fields here. This is a detention basin. This is the public works building. This is this the where's the storage at? This is storage. And then we have, this is parks and cemetery, or, why don't you take over? Like I said, we're going to tag team this one.
Yeah, so the idea here, as we worked out, so we had the space needs analysis, that's done. We've got a good report identifying what we needed for space. This is a 47,000 square foot building. The front half of it is public works. The back half of it is parks and cemetery. So we decided to bring everything into one building, share some open space in between. Obviously, these are the bays for the vehicle bays. This building here is the existing building where a lot of things are being stored currently. That's largely in good shape, other than the doors are kind of really weird, so doing some work on that. This building here would be rehabilitated to be storage units for the city departments. Essentially, the idea is to try to give everybody a little bit of space so they can store their things, so we're not having so many storage units throughout the city that we have to rent and bring it into one location. This building will be kind of the streets, the salt here. We've got some dirt storage and some vehicle storage, and we've got to have things under a covered bay. And so this is getting reskinned with a new skin and then bringing that into here. So this here, a couple of the other things as we went along and we're talking about storage and other opportunities on the site, we talked with the fire department. They talked at one point when the fire station was being considered here about having a fire training facility. This concrete pad is where that would sit if that's something that we do pursue, is the fire training facility. And then there was some discussions with the police department about potentially looking at a shooting range for trainings under this end, which is the parks end of that. Well, that'll be determined, I guess, when we get to final design. But the concept is it would be under the floor or on the parks end of that. We didn't want to bring it under the building where we've got the heavy equipment, because then we have to really reinforce that, but it's at the one end. And then this other opportunity there is what would be a rifle. It's a 100-yard rifle shooting range for 2 people side by side, kind of shooting through a box culvert to the end. So we've worked with the police department. They've also worked with somebody to help them give them some estimates of what it would actually cost to put all the stuff that they need inside it once the shell is built. And so we've got all of those numbers in everything that we're showing you tonight. The $35 million that Scott's saying includes everything that you're seeing here on that site, as well as we do have on the cemetery, there is a pavilion and some niches and some gardens area right here next to where, this is where the parking lot is that we just discussed. Right next to that is where the pavilion and meeting space would be on the cemetery. So does that kind of give the whole
Yes,
type?
thank you. And I'm going to need that pointer. There we go, that's better. Okay, if we can go back to the spreadsheet. So if we're at 35 million, we do have some one-time monies that are available. We have stimulus funds, about 4 million. Now, we don't know the rules yet still on this. And if you remember the CARES Act, when we were allocated 2.7 million, it took probably 2 or 3 months before we got the initial rules, and then 6 months before we got the final rules. So this is just how it works. This announcement was made, about a month ago, and the Utah League of Cities and Towns is working with the National League of Cities, and they're talking to the Treasury Department about what the rules are going to be. They still have not heard what the rules are. As soon as we know the rules, and hopefully if it's similar to the CARES Act, we should be able to free this up for use on this property. Now, they've already given some blanket uses for the rules. One is for water projects and sewer projects, infrastructure projects. So if we needed to allocate this money in a different way to free it up, there's ways that we could do that. We're hopeful that we can still use it for public safety wages, which would in turn free it up for general fund use. So we have that. We have the sale of our current public works property. Right now, we're estimating it at about 1.3 million. We have about $1 million in our sewer reserve account that we could probably use without impacting anything within that fund. And then we have some potential yearly money so if you take 6.3 million there and pull that out of the 25 million or the 35 million, we're now down to 29 million or so. And there's ways that we're trying to figure out to get this bond amount as low as we can get it. We're shooting to get to 25 million on the bond. And we think maybe we can even get that lower, but that's where we're at today as we've been doing our analysis. So if we have $25 million that we need to bond, our bond payment each year will be 1.3 million, of which we figure the use of this land, 58% of it's going to be enterprise and 42% is going to be general fund use. So we need 750,000 out of the enterprise funds and 549,000 out of the general fund. And so that's on an annual basis. We'd have to free that up in operating cash. So this is what we're currently For how long? For 25 years, 25-year bond. And so this is what we're currently trying to figure out. And we're making progress. Tonight, we don't necessarily really have the answer, but we just want to let you know we're still, because we have a list of here. We have some streets, general fund money we put into the streets. We could allocate some of that towards it. We have our cemetery money that we transfer into the storm drain fund at $75,000 a year to pay for the storm drain land. That could be used for the bond payment. That's considered general fund. When we do our allocation of new money next year in next year's budget, we could take $100,000. So we're at $375,000 right there without having to do anything like a property tax increase. We talked last year about holding the rate of our property taxes, meaning our assessed valuation will go up, generally about 10% a year. If we hold our rate and not have it automatically reduce, then that would generate another $313,000 a year.
But that would all, that hold the rate would all go towards this project, nothing else, is that what you're saying?
Well, that would get us at $688,000 with all those four options, and we only need $549,000. So we don't necessarily, we could hold the rate less than what we wouldn't have to do the full hold the rate, if that makes sense. We could do a portion of that. We're trying to chip away at this number. Ideally, we get it down to zero, but we're not quite there yet. We're just, we have this on here so that you understand that this is something, this might need to be the backstop in order to get the project funded and done. The utility rates at $750,000, we've put in, generally speaking, up here, and we're, this number is probably low right now. This probably doesn't generate the full $750,000. That number could be $7 to $8 a month on the utility rates. So the ones that we presented to you earlier today were $5 a month. And so we would withhold any projects, or we would, when I say withhold any projects, we would be able to do some projects with the utility rate increase next year, but a majority of that money would go to the bond payment. And so we would have this, which is fairly typical to what we normally do each year, and then we need to figure out a way to free up the general fund money. Now, other ways to reduce the bond, the shooting ranges and the fire department stuff, that's $1.6 million to do that. And so if we decide that we're not going to do, that's not integral to the public works and the other things that we're doing out there. That's just something that we thought, let's at least figure out what that cost is. So something we could put in, but that would again reduce that bond amount by another 1.6 million if we choose not to do those things. Not making those choices today. Those are just things that we want to get in front of you. So what we want to recommend is that next year is the year that we pursue the bond. And in the meantime, we'll work on getting that number down as low as we can get it. The price on the actual public works facility, when we asked for the cost estimate, we asked for a cost estimate with us building it in 2 years. So they put some cost escalation into that price. So if we wait a year, it's not going to hurt us as far as what we're anticipating for the cost, if that makes sense. And that's the biggest item out of the things that we're doing. So what we would like to suggest for this year is what to do with this $4 million to get this project started, which when I say started, meaning construction next year. So calendar year 22, we start doing some movement out there. So Marty, can you go to the breakdown? Well, yeah, let's go to the map. Let's go to the map. Okay, so here's what we recommend. No, so first of all, we got to make sure that we can use this money in this manner, and we should hopefully know that in the next couple months. What we would suggest is take this $4 million and we build the full cemetery property. Okay, so this goes in, all this goes in, this goes in. We put these roads here. This is landscaped and irrigation, but we're not going to need this for 20 years. And so we turn these into playing fields next year, essentially. So $4 million gets us this. We have to put in the street improvements here. So this would be curb gutter sidewalk along here. It would also, there's also some storm drain. So this is where it gets convoluted because there's so many things going on this property. But we'd have to excavate a portion of the detention basin, get some of that dirt out there and use it for fill up here. We don't want to have to haul in fill when we have it right here. So we'll do partial excavation here. We'd put in a restroom here that would be used for the cemetery, but also for the ball fields. as we, if we're gonna start using these for playing fields. We'd have some parking in here.
Baseball, right?
Yeah, baseball. That looks a
They're called
lot like a
Diana's
soccer field to me.
I hope it's not soccer.
To explain to Eric what the difference between soccer and baseball is.
I use the term playing fields because we could use these for flag football, lacrosse. I mean, there's other things that this would be used for other than soccer. So. So also, when this basin is ready to open, there's a storm drain pipe that needs to be put in. So we need to put that in. If we're going to develop this, we need to get that pipe in. So that's also built into this cost. We also, if we're going to do this, we're going to clean up the property, okay? So we'll tear down all the old buildings, we'll take down the fence here, take down the trees here, make this look as good as it can without being, developed. But we'd also need to fence this, because we need to secure this area. At this point, this doesn't need to be secure, just like our cemetery doesn't have a gate around it. And this area doesn't necessarily need to be secured either. This will just be open field. But we will have, we already have some buildings in here that we're going to want to secure. And so we'll put the fence in with that. Marty, the sewer line, is that for the restroom?
Yeah, we gotta get the sewer up there to service that restroom.
Okay. So there's a sewer line and lateral. So I think we got the fencing, storm drain pipe, restroom, sewer line, excavated portion of detention basin, do the cemetery roads and landscaping, and 800 North improvements. So
In the meantime, what is this? Is this just graded?
that is master planned?
This is graded? Just
Yeah, I think we grade it so that
Take the
it's,
trees out,
Take
fence.
trees out, fence, and it's just graded dirt?
No, no fence.
Okay.
yeah. When I say clean it up, like I said, it's not gonna be landscaped, but it will look a heck of a lot nicer than what it looks like right now.
Yeah.
That's
So
the-
mounds and
Yeah,
dirt.
that would be the intent.
All just sprayed out.
Leveled.
Nice.
Okay, so let's go do the cost. Okay, so to do all that, the ticket for that is $4,775,000.
Why does it seem like we're always 700,000 over budget? What we built?
That's our magic
Hey,
number.
it's like pickleball court.
We're always 700,000 short.
So we're not 700,000 short. We have ways to pay for this. We're just gonna use more than the $4 million. Because these are all the things that we need to do in order to do that. And so we use the COVID monies at 4 million. This could be 4.2 at the end of the day. We just have to wait for final confirmation. Because right now, we just have a spreadsheet sent to us by the National League of Cities saying this is what we're estimating you get. We have not heard officially from the federal government to say this is what you get. So this could be up to 4.2. We would use, now this is all one-time money. So this is a one-time capital cost. We'd use 200,000 of Class C to do the road improvements that we're required to do. We would pull 100,000 out of the storm drain budget because of some of the storm drain improvements we're doing. We'd do 150,000 out of the sewer budget for some of the sewer improvements that we're doing. And then we would take $325,000. This is assuming there's not another 200 in there. And we would pull that out of the sewer fund and loan it to ourselves to complete the project. And then as we sell future cemetery plots and things like that, we can turn around and pay that fund back. And so we end up at $4,775,000 that once we figure out the use of this money, this is something we could start design this summer, bid in the fall, and construct spring, summer for next year.
And that's just for the, technically speaking, the phase one we're talking about in the yellow.
Yes.
Can you go back to that? for a
Yeah,
minute?
let's go back to the map, Marty.
Other than all the trees out.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, so it's all this. This is what's mainly going to be developed. There's going to be a fence. There's going to be a storm drain line we need to put in. We're going to put in some sewer line for a restroom. We're also going to clean up all of this. Like I said, pull down the fence there, the trees there. That's gonna look a heck of a lot better driving down 600 West. That will look really different too, but. So that's the intent. So this is the phase one, which we feel like we could do next summer. And then next spring, we would work on the bond and figure out, okay, because dependent on how we need to fund it, if we can figure out things in the general fund without having to hold the property tax rate, that's ideal. That's what we're shooting for. We would still need to increase utility rates to make that bond payment. Would we make all those decisions next spring? And then we could go through on the funding for that and then start the design of the building, the things like that. And then in, calendar year 2023, we'd start the construction and finishing the rest of this project. So that's the game plan that we've come up with so far. Personally, I feel pretty good about figuring this out to this point. There's still some moving pieces that we're gonna have to deal with, but what we're looking for you is from feedback on how you feel about the phase one and kind of what your general thoughts are in regards to the bonding in order to do the full project. If we're uncomfortable doing the full project, then we could bond and just do, the public works facility and some of this stuff in here and do a phase two and then maybe a phase three. Just depending on the appetite as to how comfortable we are with how much money we'd need to borrow to do the full project.
But this could be phased over years, 5 years, 6 years, because there's no way on God's green earth I'm going to ask for a bond of that amount
Okay,
in one time.
so yes,
There's no way.
it could be phased.
Okay, 10 years, 20 years, I don't, whatever that looks like, there's no way I would ever ask for a bond for that amount. That would be nuts to me.
Scott, let me ask you a question. If we were to say, take this money and put it all into roads, Marty, what could you do with that?
With 25 million?
No, the 4.7.
Or 4 million.
Oh,
Current 4 million is available. Could use a lot of help on roads. That's why we're doing this $7 million bond, so we're talking another 4 million. You're usually about, $1.5 million per full reconstructed road, per mile. So you're looking at doing 50 mile full reconstruction. We obviously wouldn't do that within makes a difference.
Right.
But you're probably talking a good 6 to 7 miles of road rehabilitation, $1 million of some mixed types of rehabilitation.
And if we bonded 25 million for roads, how many could we fix?
A lot, Scott, when you talk,
I think when we initially, didn't we figure there was $70 million in road improvements when we put that together a few years ago?
Yeah.
So it'd be 25 plus 7 is 32 million.
so Scott, you're talking about rate increase for, can't remember, storm drain? Or was it? Yeah, the increase, and then leaving the rates unchanged, and that gets us how much money of the 25 million?
Sorry,
Saying
say
that
that
you-
again?
So our goal is 25 million, right?
Yes,
for this
today.
For the bond today. You're gonna get there via leaving the rates unchanged, or not?
No, the utility rates would need to be increased.
Just the utility rates, or would you
No.
have to go and ask for an increase from the citizens too? I mean,
Well,
25 million is like this building twice over, both buildings, right?
well,
So-
that's what I'm saying. We're developing 40 acres.
Yep.
Okay, we're not developing
Well,
two.
it's just it's a big shock, right? That's a huge amount
Yeah,
of
it's a
money,
big number.
right? So I'm just trying to wrap my head around it,
Yeah,
right?
well, and keep in mind, we don't have to make this decision tonight.
No, but I just need to get some
We
kind
want
of,
to, we want to get questions from you that if we don't have the answer tonight, we can get for you. But no, the intent would be that we would increase utility rates
yep,
to pay for 58% of that bond payment.
okay,
And then we'd have to come up with a portion out of the general fund, which most of it we can get there without a property tax, holding the rate on property tax.
okay.
And ideally, we'd get there without having to do anything with the property tax. And so really, the only change would be in the utility rates that would need to be done.
So go back to the slide, okay. So keeping in mind that our public works have been in our public works, and I'm including parks, have been in a building that has not been sufficient for them. So I'm starting it with that. How much is the actual building? How many million is the actual building?
I think 15 and a half.
So total, yeah. So
And that's
15.5 million?
And that's actually 5 departments, 4 departments.
So the actual building cost, it's $14.963 million.
So 15 million.
For everything. Again, that includes the 1.6 of the other, in that 14.
It also includes the police gun range and the rifle range.
Fire
And
department training facility and the public works facility and all of the site improvements on the public works site. So the 11.2 acres, I believe is what it is. It's the development of that 11.2 acres with the public works facility, redoing the buildings that are there, and we're keeping the structure of them, we're just putting new skins on them.
Okay.
So that's the whole project.
Okay.
is it a little bit late at night to really?
Just
No.
that's just a whole lot of money.
Yes, it is.
Taking it all in.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
That's why we wanted to get it out there
yeah,
tonight.
I mean, we're.
Well,
we're
I think-
14
I mean,
million
it's
in-
good to get out there because people ask what's going on with the property.
Yeah.
And if we can have information to them about the costs and what it's gonna, take to develop it and improve it, we wanna be realistic about that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with moving forward with the money that we have, that we're expecting, the 4 million that we have on hand to start with the first phase. But I do think it needs to be phased. But there's no way I would go to the public with a bond. I mean, I have PTSD,
Sure.
big time.
Well, keeping in mind, this
From
wouldn't
what's
be
happened.
this wouldn't be a GO bond. It wouldn't be
Right.
it would be a sales tax revenue bond.
Revenue bond. We don't go to the people on this one.
But their rates would still go up.
Their utility rates, yes.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so either way, no matter what we want to call the bond, their rate is going to go up
No, yeah,
significantly.
obviously, if we're gonna do something like this, we have to raise revenue to pay for it. We don't have enough in existing funds.
Right,
How much utility, I mean, what percentage of increase will there be in the utilities? Because, I mean, it goes up
$5 every year.
Yeah.
year anyway. And so how much more than the $5?
So 7 to 10,
More?
no, total,
So another $5.
yeah.
So, yeah, tonight we raised it 5.
Okay.
So next year you could raise it 7 or 8
to pay for the entire
No,
project?
for 48%, right?
to
Because
pay for the 58% to
58%.
the enterprise
To do the
funds.
entire project?
Yeah.
Yes,
You're talking about a $7 increase?
yes. If, and a big if, we can get the general fund stuff figured out without having to mess with property tax. That's what we're trying to get done.
I mean, I'm actually okay with holding the rate. Most cities do that.
Yes, they do.
And the problem is, we haven't done that for 30-plus years.
We've never
and
done it.
We haven't done
never
it?
done
Okay,
it.
we've never done it. I'm actually okay with doing that.
Yeah.
I think that's an increase that it's almost like it just stays with inflation, the cost of everything going up, and, well, I'm fine with that. I
So
think we
if
could
we
use
hold the
that money in
rate-
our city.
If we hold the rate and did $7 a month, we can do it. We can fund the project,
So it'd be $7 for,
the utilities.
Utility.
I don't know.
on the storm drain part,
No, no,
we
no,
can-
all the utilities combined.
all the community, so combined $7.
Combined
So
$7.
$2 here, $2 here, $2 here.
To do the entire project that you're talking about.
Yeah.
You remember this.
I still
It's
need to
over
sleep on it.
25 years.
I still have PTSD over a $7 road fee, so.
Well, and that's
Well,
the
you
other
Hey,
thing.
keep paying it.
A large majority of our residents
We'll
were
take
very
it.
fine with
Yeah.
that. But let me, just to kind of keep perspective, and this is why, in my mind, this is somewhat doable. Obviously, you guys are the ones that take the bullets politically, and you're the ones that, have to actually institute this. And again, we don't have to do this tonight. We will continue to work on this number to get the $25 million down as much as we can, because we do have options. If we don't do, we can cut 1.6 out right now by not doing the rifle range and the gun range. I mean, now we're down to 20.
Can those be phased?
No,
No.
no,
Okay,
Because they're going
that's the
underneath.
prob-
Those things can't be phased.
they're underground.
But I would be more apt to phase it on the things that we can phase and do it over 2 or 3 years.
Well, I think that's what this is 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
We're phasing it, what we're talking.
Yeah, I
There-
don't know if I wanna, I don't wanna do it half-assed, as my dad
Well,
would say.
so let me kind of encapsulate that. So if we're gonna build the building, we have to bond for at least 15 million.
Yeah,
Okay, so, and that's just the building, and as we'll have to contemplate phases to see what that means. So there's gonna be, for that, a $4 increase. And so now for an extra $3, we can get the whole thing funded. Okay, again, that's assuming our our general fund contribution, we can get figured out with existing funds.
Let me tell you the problem I see. If we can't figure out a way to do this soon,
it's gonna be
and
50 million.
you who are running will get put back in here, this conversation will take place, and the 30 million will be then 36 or 37 million.
Yeah.
Because we set on these sorts of things, and we worry about a $7 increase, and then future councils and mayors are going to be faced with this issue. And now we're talking about $15, $20, $25 and not holding the rate on the property tax.
Yeah, so I don't think, at least this council has ever been afraid to tackle an issue. Some of us, like we said, have memories,
Yes?
right?
Oh, yeah, I'm with you.
We've tackled these
I
issues,
sat in
right?
the same
But I
meeting.
don't want us to make the mistake of that first council where they just threw out a number, right?
yeah.
And said, and then the citizens ran with that number without it being actual verified number.
Yeah.
And I don't want us to make that mistake tonight. I
Well-
want us to just have you guys still vet these numbers and say, yes, you've thrown out some general numbers, right?
Yes.
But my worst fear is that 35 million is now going to be out there, and here we go.
Well, and so, I mean, that's up for us to control as far as the understanding. Now, once people latch onto a number, we can't control that. What we can control is our dialogue, which is, what are we doing with the property? Well, we're hoping to develop it. Well, how much does it cost? Well, we're working on it. Right now, we're giving you the preliminary, this is 3 months' worth of work, a lot of work to
Yeah.
get to this point, but it is not finished. And there is, as we do this, we sit down each time to say, okay, where can we figure this out to get this down? We want to get this down as low as possible. We don't want a tax burden any more than it needs to be, a fee burden any more than it needs to be. Staff's there, so you're seeing what we would consider the high number today. And hopefully, the next time we sit down and talk through this, it's lower.
Is this 5 departments or 6 departments? How many departments is this?
You have,
Cemetery, 7 departments.
so, what we're recommending though is getting the site cleaned up. When we talked about it in the retreat,
Yes,
that was one of the things
please.
the council said is, can we clean up the site?
Yep.
I think we can. So let's do that, but we can also scratch the itch of our ball fields and the cemetery with cash. So we're not borrowing money to do this portion of it. This is something we can get done next
And
year.
I'm fine if we want to do that as phase one.
Yeah,
Like I said, and I'm even fine with having a general conversation about holding the rate no matter what it's for.
Same.
I think holding the rate, every other city's doing this, and we have been in trouble because we haven't been.
you're right.
I agree with you.
So I'm fine with that conversation.
I'm there with you
too.
100%.
But I'm also not afraid to phase
pass
this
it on to
over
the
several
county?
years and not do an entire, going back to the PTSD. I think we just need to be more strategic in how we do this and how we present it to the public. It's good to have a number and a baseline of where to start.
Yep,
Because there has to be, when people are asking, what are you gonna do? And if that's the number to get everything we ever wanted down, they're done.
yes,
okay,
the
then-
full development of 40 acres.
Okay, then I feel comfortable telling people that it's gonna cost that much and kind of get a gauge from the community about, I'm not gonna put anything out there because I know this is just a discussion at this point. But I'm also not afraid to do it in phases, and I don't know, That's just a lot of money.
Well, but along that line, let us contemplate what those phases would be. So as we continue to have dialogue on this, we can present those options to you. Because one of the phases could be that storm drain basin, that it's not done right away. We eventually have to do it because that's the whole reason we bought the property is water's eventually gonna be coming down there. And the best thing to do would just be knock this out all at once and develop the whole thing. But that is something that could wait, and there are ramifications to waiting, just like with this building. If we would have got it funded the first go-around, it probably would have saved us $2 million. That's just the consequences of the phasing. And so that's, I think, for you to contemplate, to say, okay, if we're gonna ask for $4 to get first phase in, and then we're gonna have to come back and ask for $3 and a whole nother bond next go-around, it might not be 3 now, it might be another 4 for less money, because now the cost has gone up. Those are all things to contemplate, and interest rates, here's the thing about interest rates, you don't know. Can't predict the future on interest rates. Right now, they're very low. I get a little nervous waiting a year to bond. That could cost us some money, because we could lose some capacity if the interest rates go up substantially. Now, if we can get money at 1.5%, 2% or whatever, and that goes up to 3%, now we're not gonna be able to get as much capital money for what we're trying to do. So we don't know that. You heard Matt Dugdale tonight say the indicators are that interest rates might start coming up. That's why Utopia was in a hurry to get financed. That's why we're in a hurry to get financed on the road bonds. I mean, this, we're not recommended we do this all this year, but that would be something where it's like, all right, if we want to take advantage of interest rates, we would do that. My gut tells me we can't do that. That's why we're looking at getting.
Right, and that's why we keep asking, right, we're accountable to our residents,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And when we go and start throwing out some of these numbers, we have to be able to have the facts behind that and why, because they're going to ask us why, if we phase it in 2 or 3 phases, why are you doing $4 here? Or let's say we did it all $9 or whatever it was, $7.
Yeah.
Well, that's, to some people, again, just like we talked about the road fee, that's a huge amount for some of them, right? We're
Absolutely.
gonna hear it, we just are.
Real
So-
world ramifications to all that stuff. We've all been here.
Yep.
And
I just want us to
when
be
you use the
smart.
term PTSD, we get it as staff. And this would be probably the largest project that we would do as a city for a long, long time. But this gets
Well, it's the largest
40 acres
parcel.
of development.
We're lucky we got the piece of property.
We are so lucky, and we got it for a steal.
That would be double I can't imagine what that would be right now, that property.
No.
Well, we can imagine, we've put numbers to it. I'm the
I
greedy
think
city
it was
manager guy. I'd love to sell
150,000
5
an
acres
acre.
of that to a developer and turn around and use that money for this project.
Yeah,
But-
get rid of those soccer fields down that.
But that is less ball fields.
Developer
and-
just put multi-unit housing in
Yeah,
it
we
Yeah,
could multi-family
So-
there.
With no parking.
with
no
no
parking.
parking
We could probably put
and a bunch of
30
promises.
32 an acre in.
Please, no, I don't want to go through that. But, that's, I think the last time Marty and I brought that up, 2 or 3 years ago, the
Yeah.
response was, no, this needs to be public property.
Yep.
You get one chance to develop this. 40 acres. Now, there's a couple other things. We do have a soccer group that is interested in buying a few acres and putting in a soccer field. We've had initial conversations with them. We're not finalized there. We have another group that would like to lease property from us for soccer field, which is different than the 2 fields that we would have. This would be the stuff that's more on the west side there. Those are all discussions that we'll continue to have to see, because if they're willing to buy 3 acres of property off of us, that again reduces, because they'll develop it. When we end up with green space, we won't own it. It won't be ours, but it will be green space. So there's still things that we feel can happen in order to get this where we need to be. So, that's where we're at. Let's just have a continual dialogue. I think, let us get figured out what the rules are on this $4 million. And if it is available, then we'll revisit that. Unless there's some concerns tonight to not do that, or to reallocate that money for something other than the development of this property. You know, we'll take that feedback and run with the direction that, you know, city council would like to go, so. Any questions?
We will go to sleep on that note.
Not quite yet, but anyway, all right. Anything else for Scott?
Are we giving him any direction right now, or?
No.
No?
I
Okay.
don't,
Okay,
Yeah, I think keep
The-
planning.
all
I
right.
mean,
yeah, this is us saying this is where we're at, so just keeping you updated. But I don't think, once we figure out how we can use that 4 million, then we'll come back and have the next discussion on how you would like to allocate that.
and how much we have.
Yeah,
Yes.
maybe it's 4.5.
Right.
I do have a question on holding the rate. Is that like a 1% property tax increase, 2%, 5% property tax increase? What is
10%.
holding, it's a 10%?
Well, it is whatever our assessed valuation grows. So they'll increase, if our assessed valuation grows 10%, then our property tax rate drops 10%. So if we hold the rate, then we capture
stays
that
the same.
money we other would have lost. And on 10%, right now, we've calculated it's about $313,000. But, you know, that's if we flat out held the rate. Because what they do is they're gonna give us a number. You know, our rate's here, they're gonna get our valuation, our rate's gonna go here. Well, we don't necessarily have to go all the way here. We could go here, and maybe we generate an extra $150,000 a year. And so at that point, it's still an increase because it is more money out of people's pockets, because it is coming off the fact that the value of their house is likely going up 10%. And it's not, if you look at your property tax notice, not every single property just is a straight 10%. They do these valuations, they have this complicated formula that they do. And so for some, it could be a little more than that. For some, it could be a little less. It just averages out to be, 10%. That's what it's been roughly. We had 12% one year. We had 8% one year. Denise did the research.
Over the 8 years, we've been an average of 11 I did 8 years.
And we had 2010, 11, was it 9, or 10, 11, and 12, where it actually, our valuation went down
Yeah, negatives.
because of the housing crisis.
So what is the process for
Holding the rate is a truth and taxation hearing.
And when is that?
That would be in August of next year. If we did it next year,
It'd come on your tax notices. Comes
But
up
if we
here.
did it this year, when would that be?
it would be August of this year.
You could do it in August this
I
year.
wouldn't recommend doing it this year.
We don't need it this year.
Okay.
Let's get a plan first.
Yeah,
Figure out why we
because,
need it.
because right now, our general fund, we're good. I mean, the numbers that we showed you, we've had a lot of growth in the sales tax. I don't think this year's the right time.
Oh, what would be the need, right? Why would we do it?
Right.
Next year, we've got to, if this is going,
Yeah.
It makes more sense in my
Right.
mind. But that's the process. So we declare that in June when we adopt our budget. The notices go out in July to the residents, which it will show up as a 10% increase on their notice.
Okay,
And then we'll have a public hearing.
okay.
And then after the public hearing, now talking to other cities that have done it, the first year, you get some people out and you explain what you're doing. And they do it year after year after year, and each year they have less and less people because
Yeah.
they understand what the city's doing. Because as Sid said, we're capturing inflation is what we're doing. And that, right now, property tax is so regressive. We're using $1980 in our property tax. The reason our property tax revenues go up is due to growth. We have new buildings. Well, that's nice when we have new buildings. We're not always going to have new buildings. We're
We're
getting close
almost
to
built
build out.
out.
But eventually by holding, I mean, Spanish Fork's a good example. They have a power fund, they have a broadband fund, they have all these numerous funds. They've been holding their rate, I think, for the last 3 or 4 years. And that's general fund money, which can be used for 100 different ways. That could be used for roads, that could be used for new employees, that could be used for whatever you do. Okay, I've been talking enough, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Well, back in the back, looking at the time, Chief, if you don't really have anything that would really you need to talk to us about? Since the other directors have already left,
Give us a wave.
would you like to come forward, or? Okay.
Yay.
Oh, yeah, we got something.
Oh, great idea.
And where's it gonna be at? Right out front. That's awesome.
And help us understand, and help the residents understand why and where they would, why would they would use this
When they get on
self-exchange.
KSL.com or Facebook, and, anytime they're gonna trade something or sell something, it's just a safe place to go.
Pleasant Grove 24/7 yard sale.
Love it.
And is this also for children, not like on a domestic
You wanna-
custody exchange?
If you want to exchange money for drugs, that's the one you park.
That's not a safe exchange, that's an illegal.
But if you're gonna do it there.
Yeah.
That's great, chief.
There's a camera on it.
Yeah, I love it.
When will those be up, chief? This week. Oh, that's awesome, I love that.
Are you gonna post that on your social media?
So parents in custody
Okay.
that don't want to be together.
Pretty sign.
Okay, thanks, chief. Hey, can the fire top that? Where's your sign? Maybe a no burn sign or something like that?
Any update on the training, medical training? It's all right. It's just a tickler.
Yeah, I talked to Sarah this morning about it,
Okay.
so she's still on board about doing that stuff. I'll get that to you. I was gonna,
Yeah, no worries. Just keeping it on the radar. Thanks, chief. No worries.
Hey, thanks for
Thanks.
sticking it out with us
You bet.
tonight.
Oh, you bet. If I'm the new guy, I have to, I can't take it off.
Well, that's-
If I was to take it off, I'd be like,
Well,
Six,
if you're not here, we just talk about you.
6 months you can do that.
You'll lose a building or something. Takes. 25 years, that means she just can leave. Yes, yep.
Dion, you have anything? I really don't have anything. Okay. Marty? Well, Marty, after these change orders and you're spending all our money. So anyway, on these ditch projects,
See
so.
Denise hardly say anything, and then
I'm glad you've got something there.
Good.
So we learned today that we got another $60,000 grant for it's a transportation planning grant that we applied for through the UDOT to do an update to our transportation master plan. So
Wow.
we submitted our application 3 or 4 months ago
Oh.
and just didn't notice today, so I thought I'd let you know.
Well done.
well done. That was worth a conversation.
Any other grants?
Denise, do you have anything else to add?
I'm just glad Marty's on board.
So, Kathy? Tina?
I do, just a quick update. Last time we talked about, Kyler and I working on our policy manual in terms of harassment policies. So it's just an update on progress report. We have looked at our policy. We've looked at some policies around the state of Utah. Our policy actually is probably one of the better ones currently, but we are looking at expanding the definition given the social climate in the last few years. When the policy was written, it pretty much strictly addressed sexual harassment and not the other kinds of harassment, gender bias, other kinds of bias, implicit bias that are hot topics today. So we will be continuing to work on that. And then also with regard to training on harassment, Scott had approached, or the trust had approached Scott about a new training program that they're running, and we're agreed to be a beta test site for it. It has, how many different trainings? 50-some trainings? 70 different types of trainings, and they do have one on harassment and one on bias, right? Is that the other one? Diversity. And so we will be implementing those after we've reviewed them and probably have the employees take those 2 trainings. They're video trainings, and then you take a little quiz at the end. That way we can track who's had the trainings. And then we also plan on looking into some more extensive training for supervisors. So
Is there a
that's
way that
just-
we can see the videos before we approve it with the, like the council? Because I know there's been some questionable videos from companies as of late.
Sure.
Some well-known companies that showed a video and it was either offensive or just outdated,
Yeah.
and is there a
These
way
are
that we
not
can see that?
outdated. Kyler, I haven't seen them yet. He hasn't sent me the link yet.
Kyler, who are they through?
So the training group is called Quintana.
Okay.
And the videos have all been done, I think, within the last
Yeah.
2 years or so. So they're pretty modern. With the trust program, there's 2 trainings that they are requiring us to have our employees do, and those are the 2 trainings. There's a couple different harassment trainings that we can have. I think there's 2 or 3 different harassment trainings we can have our employees, we can pick from. And then the diversity one, they want us to have all of our staff participate in.
Kyler, how easy would it be to send a link to all the council so they can, if they want to review the videos? They can?
Yes, so we are in the process of working with the trust to get user groups created. And once user groups are created, I'll be able to create user profiles and then send those to you. And we can have, we can require our council to go through that process prior to initiating with staff. And that's not going to be a difficult thing to initiate.
Okay.
Anything else, Tina?
Nope, that's it.
Kyler, anything else from you? Scott, you want to tell us about our next meeting?
Yes, May 4th. We will have, I don't have the agenda. Kathy, can you remind me what we have? Kathy's the one that keeps the tickler file on this. We will have our tentative budget ready for approval. Again, keeping in mind that's not our final budget, but that is just kind of where we're at the time. We'll have public hearing on the parameters resolution we adopted today. And the rate choice, so the ranked choice voting will be in work session, that presentation. The other 2 items will be in city council meeting.
Ordinances for Daniel, a grant for, maybe an agreement for sewer from Marty.
That's where we're at.
Okay, and then we'll figure on having a closed session
Yes.
that we missed tonight on.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I want to express appreciation to Tina. I've asked her to run point on this, on the harassment stuff and the updating our policy manual. So it's a big task. There's a lot going on there as far as creating new policy, essentially. So I know Kyler's going to be working with her. I'll be working with her, but Tina's going to be our person for that.
so Tina, how did court go this week? Last week?
It's like riding a bike, Mayor. It's like riding a bike. You just get right back on.
Well, maybe we could save some money in our budget if we just have you do that.
I've done it, thank you, for a long, long time, all by myself. I've only had a full-time prosecutor for 3 years.
So
It's only been a year that I haven't had to do any court.
you're thankful you have a prosecutor.
Yes, I am, very thankful. He got stuck in Puerto Rico, so I had to do court today, too.
I mean, that's what he told you.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
He said his airline canceled his flight. He's gonna be back as soon as
Yeah, you should verify that.
He knows how to work it.
You might have been hanging with the mayor in California.
Yeah.
He wasn't impressed with the, well, we didn't see him.
Okay, council. Sid, what do you have for us tonight? Eric?
Saturday, the April 24th, when we be coming back from St. George. On the 24th is the ribbon cutting, big one for the Pleasant Grove Oil and Lube Carol. It's big. They're planning some big stuff out there. So
What time is that at?
it's at 4 o'clock
What day?
on the 24th, which is a
Saturday.
Saturday. I think Diana's committed to being back.
Nope.
She's not.
But it's a big thing. She's looking forward to it. Carol's a great lady. So you have that at 4 o'clock. And then On the 29th is Mountain America Credit Union ribbon cutting. They've postponed this for 2 months, and they're excited to do theirs, and that's going to be at 11 o'clock on the 29th, which is a Thursday.
And you'll be sending out a,
Yeah, yes, Claire will be
Awesome.
sending information.
So she'll send out both those?
Yeah, she'll send both those out.
Dion, what about the baseball opener? Do we
Oh,
know when
yeah.
that is? Do you know when that is, Eric? The baseball opener?
I just heard May, sometime the
okay.
first week of May is what I heard.
Okay.
I think we've started some of the, is it the older kids, but it's for the younger ones, I think they were doing the opening day for. Okay.
Okay.
Nope, did we have restart since our last meeting? So there was a really great event, out at, it was called Restart Utah. I was out at the Tribe House, building, one of, St. John Properties buildings. It was wonderful, actually, and More Energy had a ribbon cutting, and
Okay.
it was delightful. I know,
The governor kicked it off.
Governor kicked off Restart. There were a lot of people, and it was very, very well attended.
200 vendors.
200
Yeah,
vendors.
200.
Holy smokes.
And so at least,
200 vendors?
We took up two main floors, well, actually 3 floors.
and then there were concerts, and there were keynote speakers during the day, concerts at night, food trucks, 400 plus people at least.
Should we give a shout out? Anyone ever heard of the Rubies?
The Rubies.
The all-girl band out of Provo? They're actually pretty good.
They
So we'll
did-
give them a shout out.
Yep. They did a
So-
great job. Anyway.
I don't have anything, thanks.
Okay. Well, I don't have any more for us this evening, so I thank you. It's, one of our later ones, but glad we're not going into closed session because that could take a little while. So anyway, I'll get brief from you from what I missed, where you spent the money tonight. So anyway, but with that, if there's nothing else anybody needs to bring up, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by
Somebody down
Diana?
here.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.